Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fan. Today, we are going to be talking about Nikola Vucevic, Aaron Gordon, not Evan Fournier, because he hasn't really done anything for the Celtics yet. I don't even think the guy has gotten a bucket yet for the Celtics, so there's no reason for us to really be talking about him today. But we're also going to be talking about Wendell Carter Jr. and Norman Powell. So, if that intrigues you, you should stick around because we're going to be talking about how they fit on their new teams as a couple of them have a couple of games under their belt. We will not be talking about Victor Oladipo as much as I want to. He hasn't really suited up, so I don't think there's really that much to talk about, as you've probably already heard enough about him. But yeah, we're going to talk about how these guys fit on their new teams. My name is Andy. Nice to meet you guys. If you're new around here, please like and subscribe. Yeah, we're gonna hop right in, and we're gonna talk about Nikola Vucevic and how he's doing up in Chicago. So Nikola Vucevic and Al-Farouq Aminu have been traded to the Chicago Bulls for Wendell Carter Jr. and Otto Porter Jr. and 2 first-round picks. Honestly, not a bad haul. I don't mind it. I really don't. I think you could maybe get a little bit more from Vucevic. They probably could have gone a little bit more, but honestly, I don't mind it. I think it's a pretty fair trade as Wendell Carter Jr. is a very young player. However, Nikola Vucevic is an all-star, but we'll talk a little bit about Wendell and how he can maybe help the Magic later on. But Nikola Vucevic, he's played 2 games so far for the Chicago Bulls. He scored on average of the 2 games 21 points, 9 rebounds, 4.5 assists, shooting 62% from the field, 25% from three, which was 2 for 8. So he's trying, he's shooting it, and for good reason because on the season, he's been averaging 24 points per game, 11.6 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 48% from the field, and 40% from three, shooting 2.7 for 6.5 attempts. So that's honestly really good for a center. That's really, really good. So what I kind of learned from those 2 games are the Bulls are learning how to figure out the spacing. They have a center that can shoot really well from behind the arc at a pretty decent clip, but they're still figuring out how to kind of utilize that. Because on average, the Bulls have about 33-point attempts per game. But these first 2 games, the first game they had 24, so way under, and then in the second game, they had 34, which was right on the average. But both games, they shot 25% from three and 24% from three. Very bad. Very, very, very bad. Because they usually average 37% from three, 12th in the NBA. Nice little tidbit for you. So kind of how they're utilizing him to kind of maximize, I guess, their three is they like to use him as a screener at the top of the key, kind of right underneath the 3-point line. So it's not a very high screen. They're setting it right underneath the three, and either have him pop out to kind of the slot, not all the way to the wing, just a little bit less, and either have him pop there or kind of not on a roll. He doesn't really roll to the basket very often. He actually cuts a little bit more to like short corner, but just a little bit higher, not all the way there. And that's how they like to utilize him, just popping a lot off of screens instead of rolling, which I honestly think is a bad idea. Because while they do have some pretty decent 3-point shooters, if they had him as a roller to kind of suck in the defense in more, it'd be really good because he's a very good pick and roller. Every time he was cutting to the basket, whether it be off of a roll or him just naturally cutting from the elbows, he did a really good job. He was good at going downhill, and because of his footwork and his finishing, he succeeded on most attempts. So it's something I definitely think the Bulls should look into more, as it would definitely benefit their offense, especially free up Zach LaVine a little bit. Um, but I also love when they give it to him on the block. When they give it to him on the block down low, posting up on whoever, it's really nice. They played against the Warriors and the Spurs first, then the Warriors, and I loved when they gave it to him on the block. I love when they did it especially in the Spurs game. He looks really, really good against Jakob, which isn't saying much. Jakob isn't some star-studded talent, but it's still good to see kind of how that offense could flow through there, because he'll usually get double teamed when he's down there. They'll send another person when he tries to go over whichever shoulder he wants, usually on the inside shoulder, of course. They'll send a little bit of a double. They did it a lot in the Warriors because the Warriors don't have a lot of size. But it happened with the Spurs as well because they also don't have a lot of size. So you'd see him kick it out, and he can find the right person to kick it out to, or if not, that person can make one more pass, and they're going to be open. So I think they should either utilize the pick and roll game of Vucevic, or just feed him in the block and just let him distribute it. And they kind of done a little bit. It's how he has 4.5 assists in these last 2 games, higher than his usual average. So it's definitely something they should look into. On defense, he really doesn't do much for them. I'm just gonna leave it at that. He really doesn't do. He didn't do much in Orlando defensively, so it's kind of expected. He doesn't really do too much for them either. In Chicago, so he can only guard 5s. That's it. So if you're hoping he can guard a 4, you're in trouble. But overall, the impact he can have for the Bulls. Currently, the Bulls are sitting at 10th. The games with Vooch, they lost and lost pretty bad. Like I said, they're still figuring things out, and I think with time, Vucevic is going to make the Bulls a lot better. I think right now I would keep the Bulls at 10th. I don't feel comfortable saying you could lock it in because the Wizards are a pretty decent team, and I think they could jump up there. Um, but I think at 10th is where I would put the Bulls at the end of the season, making the playoff tournament. I feel pretty good about saying that with Vucevic. I feel like that's where he gets them right now this season. Now we're gonna move over to Nikola Vucevic's old teammate, Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon was traded to the Nuggets for Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, and a first round pick. That is not a great return for the Magic. I honestly think the Magic got kind of fleeced there by the Nuggets. Gary Harris wasn't doing much for the Nuggets, we're being honest here. Neither was RJ Hampton, and that first round pick, who knows who it could be, but I don't think it's going to really help the Magic and bring back value as a equivalent value to Aaron Gordon. But we'll see, I guess. Aaron Gordon, his first game, his only game so far, as of March 30th, Tuesday. Should have specified that in the beginning, but now you know. 1 game, 21 minutes, and he started. That's a really big note that I want you guys to remember. He started. In that game, he had 13 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 67% from the field. It's probably going to drop. And 25% from 3, 1 for 4. That's a little scary, but for the season, he's averaging about 29 minutes per game. So about on par with what he got. 14.6 points, 6.6 rebounds, 4.2 assists, 0.6 steals. Remember that. 0.8 blocks. Remember that. 44% from the field, which is solid. 37.5% from 3, which is awesome. It's about 1.7 for 4.5 shots from 3 is what he's been doing this season, which is pretty decent. Pretty decent. Honestly, I would expect those attempts to go up, with probably his percentage going down as well. But I think he's pretty good for a 35% 3-point shooter. I think that's something we could lock in for the end of the season. But what I got from that was, with his first game, was that it's very reassuring that he got 13 points. That's very close to his average of about 15. And it's really nice because he's also in the starting lineup. But he's in the starting lineup as like a 4th, 5th option. And I'll get into a little bit later about that. So in the starting lineup, it was Will Barton, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic. And it was awesome. It looked really good. Everyone got touches, and Aaron Gordon fit in seamlessly, didn't cause any disruptions in the starting lineup. He gives them a bigger, more versatile lineup, which is going to be awesome when they go into the playoffs. That's why I'm actually really high on them getting Aaron Gordon for so little. That's why it's a really, really big deal that they got him, is because that defensive versatility, especially. I'll get a little bit more into that later as well. Just everything defense I'll get into later. He took some of Paul Millsap's minutes. and really all of Gary Harris's minutes. Gary Harris was averaging 30 minutes per game for some odd reason in the 19 games he was playing. And yes, you heard that right. 19 games he has played. The man has averaged about 50 games for these past few seasons. Aaron Gordon has been very healthy, and that's why they moved Gary Harris and got Aaron Gordon specifically. Sometimes, man, the best ability is availability. So great for the Nuggets to have someone they can actually play day in and day out. But specifically with the play style, right? Specifically with the play style for Aaron Gordon, what it seems like they plan on doing with Aaron Gordon is have him do everything from the corner. I don't want to necessarily put him in a box like PJ Tucker, but at least this game has seemed very similar to that. And I'll explain, because everything seems like he's either going baseline or he's slashing in front of his defender from the corner, kind of cutting to the paint, or he's getting hit for just a catch and shoot three. And there's nothing wrong with that. I actually like it a lot. They also have him setting off ball screens for teammates, kind of right underneath the wing inside, to then cut to the corner, all the way to the corner, or cut kind of short corner to the dunker spot. I guess kind of as like as someone else is doing some other action on the other end, they have him available down low for a little dish, which happened every once in a while. So that's kind of what it seems like his main role in the offense is going to be, which is going to work out really well, I think. But to kind of go into the overall impact I think he could have, we're going to talk a little bit more about everything I said. We're going to talk a little bit more later. He went from being the second option on the Magic to the fourth, and arguably the fifth option in reality, depending on how you feel about Will Barton. He went from either the fourth to fifth option on the Nuggets. And honestly, it's great. I think that's exactly what Aaron Gordon should be. Aaron Gordon should be your fourth best player, I think. If he's your second best player or third best player, you're not in a great position. You're really not. Him being your fourth or fifth really maximizes his talents and what he can offer a team, especially this type of team, because he really fits the Jeremy Grant role that they have. And remember how I told you to remember his defensive stats, about 0.6 steals, 0.8 blocks is what he's been averaging this season. It's nothing off the charts, but that's what Denver is going to need him to do. Denver is going to tell him, it's like, hey, we'll find you on offense, but where we need you to shine is on defense, and kind of be like what Jeremy Grant was. Jeremy Grant is a better defender. I am not going to sit here and tell you that Aaron Gordon is better or will be better, but they just need him to be similar. And Aaron Gordon could do that. He's a very athletic dude. He can play the 3 and the 4. He could arguably play the 5, depending on who the 5 is, I think. But he's a very athletic dude, at least, and he's going to at least help you get boards, give you a little bit of rim protection on the weak side. And if he buys into that rule specifically on defense, dude, it's going to be really great to be a Nuggets fan. It's going to be really, really great. However, I would also like to see him utilized more on offense as a pick and roller, like an on-ball pick and roller, because he's a really good passer. So I'd love to see him in a short roll, make a decision, kind of hit a corner, something like that, and maybe even be used as a center when Jokic is off the floor, go really small. I'm not very big into small ball, but I think that would be a lot of fun. I think that'd be really interesting, something experimental to do during the season. Remember, this is the same team that in the bubble, they threw out 5 centers at once. So I don't think this is something really off the charts idea that for them to do. I would really like to see. I think it could be really interesting. But currently, the Nuggets are 7-3 of their last 10 games, and Gordon, I think, is just going to keep making them better. They're currently at the 5th seed. I think they could maybe even jump to the 4th seed, depending on how the Lakers play without LeBron now for a few games. They could definitely do it. And I really like the Nuggets going into the playoffs. They're definitely going to be a strong team. So definitely someone that people should watch out for. Okay, so really quick, we're going to go through Wendell Carter Jr., 21 years old. I really want to state that first because he is a very young guy. So he's going to a very young team now. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. He was in the trade with Vooch. So the Magic seem to see very highly of Wendell. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. In his first game there, though, he averaged 8 points, not average. He had 8 points, had 8 rebounds, He was really aggressive, and that showed with him having 7 free throw attempts, which was above average for him. He only shot 57%, so that's not great, but it at least shows that he's trying. And I don't want to say he was that aggressive because there were some times where he seemed a little lost or he just went the wrong way on offense and on defense. So I think he's just he's still figuring out how that offense and defense works. Same thing with Otto Porter Jr. He seemed a little bit more in sync with it, but neither of them started. They both came off the bench. However, they're probably going to start in the near future. At the end of the game, it was very close, and both of them closed it out. So when a team does that, that means they want them to start probably. So yeah, they're probably going to start very soon. Um, Something interesting, right? Something very interesting because Wendell's just going to give you points and rebounds. That's really all I have for Wendell. He has a high potential. I'm not too high on him, but someone I am pretty high on that could be next to him is Mo Bamba. I would love to see Mo Bamba play more with Wendell Carter. Bamba in that game, he only played 17 minutes, which isn't a lot, but it's a lot for him. He usually averages 11. So with Vucevic gone, he now has an opportunity to shine a little bit. And ladies and gentlemen, he did. In 17 minutes, he had 11 points. He had 7 rebounds. He had 3 assists and 3 blocks. I want to see Mo Bamba out there playing, not Kem Birch. He's a raw player. I understand that. There are times where he slips up, but he needs more game time experience. I'm sorry, Magic fans, to use this word, but you guys are in a rebuild. That might be a bad word for you guys. I understand that. But you guys are in a rebuild. So you're not trying to win games. So just develop your players, develop Mo Bamba. Let's see what happens with him at center. And he's a 7-footer that can shoot threes. He can defend really well too. And he's a great rim protector. I want to see the man shine. So let's see him shine. So that's the good news for you Magic fans, that you guys have a nice little young core there with Cole Anthony, Mo Bamba, Jonathan Isaac, who we cannot forget about, and Wendell Carter Jr. I don't know how Otto Porter Jr. fits into it. We'll kind of see about that. He has a really big contract, so I think that's the thing holding them back the most. So we'll see about that. But there is something to be happy about in Orlando. Something very small though, minor, but there's some happiness to be had. So you guys should definitely be looking forward to that at least. I'm excited to see what happens with the Magic in the future. Last but not least, but the least I have written about in my notes is Norman Powell because really what you see is what you get with Norman Powell, man. The guy's a stud. He was traded to the Blazers for Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood. He's played 2 games for them so far, and he did not miss a beat. He's doing everything he did in Tampa, and he brought it right to Portland. He's a great shooter. He's a great defender. He gives the Blazers another person that they can rely on other than Dame and CJ. And while that doesn't sound like a lot, it is because after Dame and CJ, it's a pretty big clip for the defense to be worried about. Like Melo's been great, but I don't think Melo's keeping guys up at night anymore about covering him on defense. So it's like Norman Powell is a big acquisition for them. Especially since they haven't played in the 3. That is a spot they desperately needed to fill. So the fact that they got someone of his caliber there is awesome. And I know I'm giving him a lot of high praise. Um, so let me just kind of preference that with I don't think he's like a star player. He's just a very talented starter. That's why it's great that he's with 2 stars in CJ McCollum and Dame Lillard. So he just has to go out there, kind of do what he was already doing in Toronto, as well as defend the 3. They actually had him starting the 3 in his first game, I believe. I don't remember too well in the second game if they did or not. But he's a very versatile defender, which is something they need greatly. It's something they desperately need. So it's great that they got him there. He I think solidifies them as the 6th seed, possibly 7th seed. It depends on the Mavericks and kind of they figure things out on whether or not the Mavericks jump them and become the 6th seed. Like I said, today's March 30th, Tuesday. This could very much change in a week. Who knows? But I think at the end of the season, we're going to see the Trailblazers in that 6th spot, maybe 7th spot. I don't see them passing the Nuggets for the 5th spot. I think the Nuggets are way too good at this point with Aaron Gordon, as I already stated. So yeah, I think that Trailblazers is going to be really good though in the playoffs. Still, they should be competitive, more competitive than what they were, which should be exciting and fun, just like the rest of this stuff. Well, guys, that's all the time we have for this video. I hope you enjoyed. And if you did enjoy, I hope you liked and I hope you subscribed, because we have content like this that comes out weekly. We have weekly NBA content every Thursday. We have weekly NFL content every Friday. So if you're interested in that, definitely subscribe and come back and check us out often. Also, check us out on Instagram. I'm going to put the @ in the description. So if you want to follow us there and see what type of content we post, check it out. It's some fun stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.